With the release of Herman Prime and Ashobani Pile into Rise of Kingdoms, the Commander investment meta has definitely changed, and in today's video, we will be revamping my investment tier list to include both Herman and Ashobani Pile and the impacts they have had on the game. So if you're interested in getting the best Commander choices to invest your precious gold sculptures, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now let's start off today's video by discussing something before we see the tier list, and that is, what is the tier list going to be based on? Because there are different ways to rank all the commanders in the game, but today's video is focusing on their future potential. What commanders are going to be really good for your gold sculptures now, and that will carry on for the next year or 2 years. We don't want commanders that are going to be really good now, like let's say maybe Charles Martel right now is a strong commander, but in 2 years' time, maybe even a year time, he's not going to be nearly as strong. Or maybe a commander like Alexander the Great. These are just examples, but let's just say you put gold heads in Alexander the Great, a year's time, he may not be so good. So those commanders will rank lower, even though they are doing pretty good now. And stuff like debuffs, AoE, current damage compared to the current meta, what stats do they have? All this will be taken into account to look at their future potential. So I'm looking at stats, I'm looking at pairings, I'm looking at release date, I'm looking if they have any relics. There's tons of things I'm trying to consider when I'm trying to see how good of an investment they are, but their current field potential and how good they are right now is not one of the main factors. It's somewhat important, I do somewhat consider it, but it is not the main point of this tier list. This tier list is more looking into the future. When I make a field performance tier list though, then we'll notice some commanders move up and some commanders may move down. So now with that out of the way, let's switch over to the tier list. So now here is our tier list. You can see there are 6 tiers. Top tier investments means literally the best possible investments in the game. Quality options are commanders which are really good investments right now. They're often used as a primary for a second march or a really good secondary to a top tier investment. Niche investments are usually where most commanders go, but we've kind of changed up the list. So niche investments are more involved with a third march for a troop type or a really good substitute commander for a specific march. Then you've got your rare investments. These are commanders which can be used in a 4th to 5th march and have some okay investment potential for specific accounts, but are not really used by most accounts. Poor choices are commanders that are just okay on the field right now, okay in the future, but definitely are nowhere near the upper tiers. And then never invest are commanders when you look at their kit, it's like, wow, these guys suck, and we're never ever going to use them pretty much ever again. So with that out of the way, let's just start ranking commanders. And you can see first on the list, we've got Lao Che, and he's obviously a top tier investment. He's probably the best commander in the game at the moment. Crazy debuffs, he's got smite damage, all this new stuff that came with him, and he's definitely the strongest infantry commander, so he's deserving of that top tier investment spot. Cao Cao is a never invest, El Cid's a never invest, also Charlemagne in my opinion is a never invest, Frederick is a never invest, and then we've got YSG. I've been noticing in the current meta, YSG is doing a little bit better, especially with Herman Prime. But really, when we look at YSG, I'd say he's a niche investment. If you haven't already got him, I wouldn't go out of my way to get him. There's pretty much no reason to do that. So YSG, definitely falling in that niche investment category. I wouldn't get him nowadays unless you already have him. He's good in 2 archer marches. He's very usable in 3 and definitely needed in 4 marches. But he's not a go-to choice for the first 2. There are other commanders like Artemisia which will just be stronger. So YSG is sitting in that niche investment category. Herman Prime though, the newest archer commander, straight in top tier investments, nothing more needs to be said right there. Herman is probably the second strongest archer commander in the game. He's easily got the best debuff in the game. He's got some really solid stats. He's got AoE, not going in Herman's kit, that is very powerful. Hannibal Barker, also in the never invest category. I'm putting Honda in the rare investments. He's really good for a whale account that might have 7 or so marches, and he's really good if you're running 4 marches of one troop type. So he's got his uses, but nowadays he isn't at that meta level like he used to be. Maybe a while back he would have been in top tier investments or quality options. Nowadays though, I think rare investments is a good spot to put him. Constantine is, I'm going to put in poor choices. He's got some uses in KVK2 as a garrison and an open field commander. He's okay in Sunset Canyon as an investment, probably the best in Sunset Canyon actually. But I think for open field and for majority of fighting in Season of Conquest, he's not the best option. Bertrand is also going to go into poor choices. I think it's kind of hard to put him in rare investments. You could say he's good for a cav march, but that's like 6 or so cav marches before you bring him in. And at that point, I mean, only whales are going to get him, so they probably already have him maxed. And he's not a meta rally either, so poor choices for Bertrand. Zenobia is going to go into rare investments. She's a very solid garrison still nowadays, even with the release of a Show Bunny Pearl, so as a garrison, she's a solid investment. Guan is also going to go into the niche investments, especially with new archer commanders in the game. We're going to notice Guan not as strong as he used to be. So Guan Yu, I'm putting in the niche investments. I think that's a solid spot for him. He's really good for 3 or so infantry marches, definitely possible for 2 marches, but there are better commanders like Saga and Gorgo, all these other commanders who are just going to be a stronger option than Guan for most motorballs. Maybe if you're running 5 or so marches, he's a must grab, but usually I would say he isn't. CPO, on the other hand, definitely a top tier investment, really good with Lao Che, definitely needed in 2 infantry marches. Probably the best march is a Lao Che CPO, and everybody knows he's got one of the best debuffs in the game, so he's a very good choice. Nebu, on the other hand, is a poor choice. He's good in the open field still. I mean, he's average, barely usable, but you wouldn't say that in the future he's going to be a very powerful commander. So I think Nebu, definitely up there in those poor choices. He's falling off right now, and I don't think that's really going to stop. I'm putting Yan Ziska in rare investments. Once again, Cav Garrison, new Cav Garrison should be coming soon, so he's got some potential to be a very powerful garrison. Suleiman, never invest. Harold, I'm going to put also into, I'd say, rare investments. He's good for 3 infantry marches. He's good for city popping with Pakal. He's got some synergy with Alexander the Great, but he's definitely not one of those most powerful commanders. Shobani Pala is going to go into the niche investments. I'd say for 2 archer marches, even 3 archer marches, he's a really, really good commander. Lots of synergy with Herman Prime, and also he's a solid rally, so he's got a lot going for him. I would say he's pretty powerful. Joan Prime is going to go into the top tier investment. She's the best Cav secondary in the game, double active skill, a lot going there. I'm going to put Jadwiga in poor investment. She's definitely not one of the meta garrisons nowadays. I don't think that will change when the new garrisons release, because she isn't up there with one of those strongest garrisons. She's definitely not at the level Zenobia was. She doesn't have much unique utility. She was pretty much just pure stats and DPS. Gorgo is also going to go into quality option. She's the first commander there, and that's because she's pretty much essential for 2 infantry marches, and she's probably the best garrison in the game right now. So Gorgo, very, very powerful commander, lots of future potential in my opinion with the Smite meta, especially with Lao Che, and she's just destroying on the open field, so quality options is certainly fair. Lubu, you can't even get him anymore. Nevsky's actually going to go into quality options. People might think, why am I saying this? Well, I would say right now, as a pure investment, he's not the best option out of other commanders because we have new Cavs coming soon, and we're pretty much guaranteed that these new Cavs will be a primary, in my opinion. I think that they're looking to make something stronger than Nevsky, because we've seen with, let's say, infantry, Lao Che, the new better version of CPO. We've seen Herman, the better version of Boudica pretty much. And now I think we're going to see something that's almost a better version of Nevsky. And I think for now, he's still a very good commander on the open field. For open field, he'd be up here. But for investments, I'd say he's a quality option. Still very good, definitely going to be used in 2 cav marches when the new commanders possibly release. Though this may change depending on what the new commanders are. Maybe Joan goes down a tier and Nevsky goes up. We'll have to see when the Cavs are fully announced, but right now I would say he's mainly in that quality option since Cavs are expected to get a new commander relatively soon. Mulan is going to go into the poor choices. She's the only gold key commander really that has some value besides like Mehmed, and that's because she's got some really good buffs. Speaking of Mehmed, he's going to go in bro investments. I wouldn't really put gold heads in him, but for his museum relic and his possible synergy with commanders, he's pretty good. Ragnar is useless. Flavius, I'm going to put into poor choices, honestly. We haven't seen many Flavius Gorgo garrisons. They're not too OP. You'd rather a Zeno. You'd rather something even like a Constantine or a Heraclius. I'd say that Flavius's garrison days are pretty outnumbered. I'm going to also put Lao Che in top tier investments. I mean, he's probably still the best archer commander in the game. Him and Lao Che are probably on par with their strength. And put him with Herman Prime, you've probably got the best archer march in the game. I'm going to put Pakal in rare investments with Harold. They're just a really good city popping pair. And Pakal as a rally is pretty good. Speaking of a rally, we've also got Tarek. Tarek is a rare investment as well, in my opinion. Lots of strength as a rally. Pretty good open field potential. I'd probably put him at the top of rare investments. But he's definitely not one of the strongest commanders in the game and is more there for a 3rd infantry march. YSS is pretty much a never invest nowadays. Moctezuma is a never invest. Leonidas, in my opinion, is a never invest. Boudica at this point is a quality investment. She is a really, really good commander for 2 archer marches. For 1 though, I'd just rather Herman in pretty much every single situation. So Herman, definitely better than Boudica all the time, and it's not even close with Zulang. So Boudica, quality options in my opinion. Some people may say though she's a top tier investment. though I think she's still very powerful, she's just not at that top tier. Artemisia is going to go in niche investments. For 2 Archer she's really good. For 3, she's pretty much essential if you don't have a YSG, so she's deserving of that spot. Khan is a poor choice. He's pretty good in Season 2, he's got an okay relic nowadays, but he's not the strongest commander in the game. Alche Bing is going to go into quality options up there with Nevsky, a very solid cav commander, but there's a lot of DPS in his kit, not much utility, though he does have a shorter rage cycle, which is pretty good, but he can't city pop too well. That is something you should keep in mind. Justinian, I would say, is a niche investment. He's a very solid rally commander, and he's solid on the open field. I think he's deserving of that spot. Henry is also, in my opinion, going to go into, I'd say, quality options as well. As an archer commander for both rallying and open field, he's very decent, and open field, he's very tanky. So if you do get him, someone who personally owns him, he's going to do well in the open field. There's pretty much no doubt about that. Heraclius is going to go into raw investments. He's only a garrison commander. There's no open field potential, but he's up there with one of the best garrisons in the game. Sargon is going to go into quality options. For 3 infantry marchers or even 2 infantry marchers, is a really good commander. Lots of synergy with Lao Che, very strong with CPO. In my opinion, maybe even a better investment than Guan, because he does have a lot of future potential. I was tempted to actually put him down a tier though, because the release of Herman Prime does kind of make his debuff less powerful, but I'd say he's still a really good option. Thutmose is, in my opinion, maybe a rare investment. He's okay in KVK 1, he's obviously okay in KVK 2, he's got a decent museum relic, he's pretty good if you already have him, but I wouldn't go out of my way to invest in him. Cyrus is also going to go into the rare investments. As someone who's been using him more and more recently, I've noticed he's still a very solid commander. So Cyrus, I'm still a pretty big fan, still got his uses for 3 to 4 archer marchers, but I wouldn't say he's that powerful, so rare investments is a good spot. Pyrrhus is a poor choice. I mean, he's almost like a Thutmose, but I think Thutmose has better future potential than Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus, though, with Lao Che is a fairly solid option, though I would just rather a CPO or a Gorgo pretty much any day. Alexander the Great, I'm going to put into niche investments nowadays because he's really good in KVK 2, and the thing is, with the release of Lao Che, there's lots of synergy with him and Alexander the Great, and if you're able to use that as your first march, it's solid, and then you can build Alexander the Great a little bit further on from there. But do keep in mind, he's definitely not one of those most meta commanders. He's pretty much the only in niche investments for the same reasons as YSG. Really usable in the early game, solid options for the end game, but not game breaking. Ishida, never invest your gold heads. He's good gathering. I'll just put Cleopatra and Sundok in there. Julius Caesar, I'm going to put into poor choices. I'd say nowadays he's almost like a worse version of Mehmed. So he's definitely not up there with those meta options, but he's an okay choice for a museum relic if you wanted something like Mehmed, but a little bit different. Charles Martell is going to go into rare investments as well. I'd say he's got some okay usage. He's probably at the end of the tier pretty much for the same reasons as Thutmose. Edward of Woodstock is definitely a poor choice nowadays. Only reason you get him is for rallying in Season 2. Amana Tori is going to go into poor choices as well. She is probably one of the worst investments for archers, but she still has a lot of field power right now, so if you did max her, she'd be okay, but the thing is, she's definitely not up there with those best commanders. Margaret and Barbara are also just going to go both into niche, because they are just that. They're only good if you need a siege march, and the only siege march right now, so pretty much they're your only option. That's why they're in the niche, and they're fairly strong, to be honest. I'm going to put Theodora in never invest. I'm going to put Trajan into niche investments. When you look at him on the open field, he's solid, he does buff your murder ball. Thing is though, when you use 7 DPS marches, it's better than running a Trajan in the mix, though his buffs are still valuable, and if you just wanted a support march, he's going to do really good for that. Minamoto, in my opinion, is a quality option for an investment. The reason he's that high is because you don't have to put any generic gold sculptures in him. Really good KVK 1, 2, 3, and very solid in Season of Conquest, so can't really go wrong with maxing a Minamoto. Ditto is going to go into the rare investment. She is a good archer commander for garrisons really only, and she's got some okay synergy against the Shermani Power Rally, but she's not game-breaking. I'd say she's decent, just not too overpowered. Ramses, in my opinion, is a poor choice nowadays. He's not a never invest. There's some cases where you might get him, maybe if you're a whale and you buy him in the daily special offer, but I wouldn't go out of my way to invest in Ramses. That's why pretty much all 3 of these archer commanders are at the back tier. They're good, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get them. Saladin is also going to go into the poor choices. Nowadays, he is a solid KVK 2 commander, but really once he hits Season of Conquest, instantly just loses all his value. Unlike Alex and YSG, who work pretty good with other commanders, Saladin with someone like a Nevsky isn't OP, Saladin with Hao Bing isn't OP, Saladin with Joan isn't OP, Saladin with Ethelfled is okay, but that's pretty much it. So Saladin, definitely a poor choice of investment, especially compared to someone like YSG or Alex, who have further Season of Conquest potential. Richard is also a poor choice, only good for some really early game investment to do some barb chaining, but otherwise he's pretty useless. Tamaris is actually going to go into the niche investment nowadays. With Herman, she's really, really good with him. I mean, not really, really good, but it does bring her back into the game, and I'd say for a future investment, she's pretty okay with Herman Prime especially. So Herman Prime with Tamaris, very solid March, and I'd say that Tamaris is an okay investment because of that. Takeda is a poor choice in my opinion. Attila is a rare investment. I just say actually both of them are rare investments. If you're a Cav main as a whale, really good March. If you're a free-to-play, not such a good March. So Attila Takeda, it's decent. Attila is an okay anti-swarm rally, but for most players, I wouldn't really get those commanders. CJ is probably a poor choice nowadays. He never really took off in the game meta. He's never been too strong, and I don't think that's really going to change. I'm going to put William in the quality options. He's a very solid commander for the open field. He's got nice buffs, nice debuffs, able to shut down your opponents really well, but he's not absolutely game-breaking. Gilgamesh, going to go into the poor choices. I'd say up near the top. He's got a very solid debuff for 3 to 4 Archer Marches is really good. As a rally, he's fairly decent, but his DPS is very lackluster. His stats are pretty low compared to meta garrisons, and even though his debuff is good, Scipio has the same debuff, so keep that in mind. His debuffs are overlapping with some of the best commanders in the game, and that definitely makes him a weaker option. Ethelflaed is going to go in top tier investments because she's literally free. This doesn't mean you should use her on the open field, but as an investment, she's probably the best in the game because you pay literally nothing. So Ethelflaed going in that top tier. Zhang Yu is going to go into, I would say, rare investments. He's definitely not as strong as Hao Bing, and compared to some of the other Cav commanders here, like let's say Justinian, he's probably not one of the best options. He's good for 3 to 5 Cav marches within that realm, but I wouldn't invest in him since you've got someone like Hao Bing who is almost better. So Zhang Yu, commander I used to see a lot in the open field, definitely has fallen off, but he's an okay investment if you want to move into a couple Cav marches. Same thing with Chandragupta. I mean, Zhang Yu and Chandragupta pretty much go hand in hand. When you get Zhang Yu, you get Chandragupta, and you run them as a Cav march together, so they're both going into rare investments. Wizard Tian, I've heard some talk about her possibly becoming a meta garrison in the future, but from what I've seen, there is no guarantee of this, so for now, I'm going to put her in never invest, because unless we see her become a meta garrison like Constantine, then I wouldn't really bother investing in her. Even then, Constantine as a garrison commander, he's really good, but most players just didn't bother getting him because he's not too good against swarms, and he's okay against a one-on-one rally. Probably the best for a one-on-one rally, but in most KVKs, he's going to get swarmed down. So Constantine, same reason is in poor choices. Wizard Tian, even if she becomes meta, will probably still be in the poor choices, especially since she hasn't got any extra field potential, whereas Ditto and commanders like even Heraclius, I know that sounds weird, have very minuscule but still some field potential, whereas Constantine pretty much none, and Wizard Tian definitely has no field potential at all. So now here is the final tier list, fully reorganized in order. I've done it in order from the commander I think is the best of each tier down to the worst of that tier. So for example, in the quality options, I've said Gorgo is the best quality option and Minamoto is the worst. And this continues all the way down the tier list until you hit the never invest. Actually, Attila should be a little bit higher. He should be about there. So that is the tier list, fully reorganized. And one last thing that I did change while I was doing it is Tariq got moved up a tier. He was before in the rare investments, but when I looked at his damage and his future potential and his rally potential compared to some of the other commanders on this tier, he was just too strong to be left in the rare investments. And I think that in the future, he's got more potential than someone like, let's say, Attila or someone like even Honda. So Tariq, very, very strong commander, solid nowadays, and I think that will stick around for at least another year, even 2 years, so he's definitely worthy of that niche investment spot. So now that we've made it to the end of today's video, I would like to ask you guys for one very small favor, and that is, what did you think of the tier list? Tell me in the comments down below. Did I get something right? Did I get something completely wrong? Maybe Ethelflaed should stop being in the meta investments even though she is free. Maybe Herman wasn't worthy of meta investments. Maybe Boudica should still be in meta investments. Maybe even Nevsky should still be a meta investment. Tell me in the comments down below, what do you think I did wrong? What do you think I did right? Even if you have something you just want to say about a commander that you really like, feel free to tell me down below because I do listen to your feedback. You'll notice that my tier lists adapt over time. So once I placed Hao Bing at the top tier and I put Nevsky a tier below, that everyone told me that was completely wrong and I was willing to change that. So tell me in the comments, did I do something wrong? Did I do it all right? I'm always interested to hear your feedback and I just want to say thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.